He has spoken on the topics faith, family and freedom in Cuba, Belgium, Brazil, Congo, UK and all over the USA to crowds from 14 to 40,000. International leadership speaker, trainer and coach. Author of Learn to Raw Leadership, Attitude Hack, Live a More Excellent Life, 5 Battle Strategies of a Victorious Warrior. 2021 President's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. Founding partner of the John Maxwell team. Toastmaster International Speech Competition semi-finalist. Founder of Tell It Like It Is TV, ThatGuyRocks.com and ThatGuySpeaks.com. Creator of Story Power TV, Transforming Grace TV, and Leading Leaders Podcast. Producer of 4 TV programs and podcasts for Liftable TV and World Trumpet Television as well as multiple social media channels. Please help me welcome J. Loren Norris.
September 3rd, in fact, what is that, like 5 months from today, 4 months from today? My wife and I will have been married 30 years. 30 years. She has got some serious stick-to-itiveness to put up with me for 30 years. 4 kids, 11 grandkids. Yeah, it's been a run. It's been a good run. I mean, it wasn't always good. But here's something I've learned from my wife after 30 years together. Sometimes the greatest compliment that I can expect doesn't look like woohoo, like the big, dancing blow up inflatable in front of the car lot. No, it doesn't look like that. It looks and it sounds like, yeah. That, and when I get that, I have to remember sometimes that's not about me. That's who she is. And that's actually a good compliment. What do you do with that when you're a leader, when you're a communicator, and what you need is praise, what you need is encouragement? What do you do with, yeah, that's what I want to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders.
Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.
I'm J. Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. And I can't tell you how many in the leadership category, in the communicators category, in the pastors and ministers and political leaders, all over the board, people who tend to migrate to places where they're going to be in front of other people, where they're going to be noticed and recognized. Not your average accountant, not your average bookkeeper or behind the scenes administrator kind of a person, but the ones who are going to be out front, their career styles, their personality types, their character types, they all tend to have one thing in common, and that is often those people who perform on stages, whether it's in dramatic theater or it's as a communicator or whatever other reason they might be on stage. Put them in front of a room, put them in front of a crowd, and you'll see them shine. It's their personality type. It's their character trait. It's usually aligned with their strength. They also have one other massive thing in common. A lot of times their own self-esteem rises and falls on the critique, the feedback, the criticism, the encouragement, the adulation they get from others. They aren't just people pleasers. They're driven by people's praise. I know, I are one. And even when I've had jobs where I was in the background and nobody knew who I was, I wanted my boss to tell me I've done a good job, that I've done a good thing, that I've done it right, that I've done it well, that it was impressive. That was impressive. That was above and beyond our expectations. That's what I really want. That's what I strive for. That's what I long for. And I guess God has a way of bringing us back to earth when he partners with someone whose most exuberant declaration of, I'm impressed with you, that's awesome, is, yeah. Because that's what I get. For 30 years, that's what I get. Now, I can also tell you, in the years that I've been in leadership and that I've been in communication, and I've competed in international levels on more than one occasion with public speaking, I get people who pat me on the back. I get coaching clients who say to me, wow, you should be getting like 25 grand every time you're on the stage. You're that good. And I don't. And I have never asked for it. Maybe I should. Maybe I should ask, the next time I'm asked to speak on a stage, I'll just say, yeah, my fee is 25 grand. I don't have the confidence in myself to do it, but it feels good to hear somebody say, you're that good. You're that intelligent. You're that smart. You run through the knowledge base so well. Okay, so let me tell you something you need to know as a leader, as a communicator. It's nice to have those accolades. It's challenging to have the ones that sound like, yeah. We desire the, wow, that's what we want. Woohoo! That's what we want. And we don't always get it. But let me tell you that sometimes the best woohoo is better replaced by a, yeah, than anything else. I stumbled across this little book called Confessions of a Public Speaker, written by a guy by the name of Scott Birkin. And on page 112, he says, I'm in Sydney, Australia in 2006. I just gave what I think is a killer presentation. The audience laughed at my jokes and enjoyed my stories, and my points hit home. It could not have gone any better, and I'm sky high from the buzz. I hop off the stage, and Corey, one of the organizers, tells me enthusiastically, "You were fantastic, totally amazing." I shrug it off as if I'm too cool to take the compliment. Basking in the warm glow of my own ego, I happily stand with Corey and watch the next speaker. Turns out, he's bad. He's dull, he's unclear, his points are a mess, the audience looks like they're ready to leave, and I feel for Corey. I know how awkward it is to talk to speakers after they bomb. When the speaker finishes and exits the stage, he's greeted by Corey just as I was. I can't look, but I want to. It's like a car accident happening in slow motion, and then I hear Corey say, "You're fantastic, totally amazing." The verbatim praise he gave me. Now, given the laws of physics, in this universe, it's impossible we earned the same score. Maybe I deserved an F and he deserved an A, but no functioning brain could score us equally. In that moment, I learned that things people say often mean something other than what you think they mean. In this case, totally amazing did not mean I was amazing at all. It was just a post-lecture encouragement Corey gave every speaker, regardless of his performance. If I wanted data on how well I'd done, I would have to look elsewhere. See, one of the challenges that we find, especially in the days of social media, is that you come up with an idea, you come up with a presentation, you come up with a talk, you come up with a new innovative notion, a product, a service, a way of doing things, a new methodology. And you have to float that balloon like a trial balloon, or as John Maxwell says, when you have a new thought, take that thought for a walk. See how many people look at it and go, "That's the most hideous dog I've ever seen." And how many people go, I think you got something there. But see, the reality is, whether you're taking it out for a walk the first time, you're sharing your idea with people around you, your peers, or you're floating it out into the public. I know there are some people who are so convinced their ideas are brilliant that they won't even tell you what the idea is without a non-disclosure agreement. They want an NDA before they even tell you the name of the project. And I've signed some of those NDAs only to hear the name of the project and the idea and see it all written out elaborately, and then within about 3 minutes be able to find an identical patent that's already been done and completed and the product is on the shelf. And they think they've got a brand new idea, but it's already been done. There's no value in their brand new idea because somebody else is already selling it. That's a hard place to be. But when you live inside a bubble where you don't take criticism from outside, or the most in-depth, responsive, thought-filled, thought-provoking criticism you get is, yeah, then you really have no idea if your ideas are great or not. I've done some of my own graphic design work, and I finish it, and from my wife I get, yeah. If she's in a really, really giving mood, I'll get, I kind of like that one, or that one's cool. And then I float it out in the public and it gets 9,000 critiques of, well, you got the wrong color scheme, or you should have moved your face to this side, or it should have been on the left side, and why would you put it in the middle, and why would you cover up this, and why would you make it like that? And everybody has their own socks and their own opinions, and all of them stink. And you've got to be careful when you're asking for feedback, whether that feedback is critical. Is it criticism? Is it critique? Is it evaluation? Is it qualified? See, it's real easy to take the praise from those people who are like, woohoo, yay, good on you, you did an awesome job. And then realize later that they didn't really mean it. That's kind of the way they react to everything. Or they didn't really mean it, they just didn't want to hurt your feelings. At the same time, sometimes our failure feels fatal. We screwed it up, we know we screwed it up. And everybody around us, some are just going to go, ooh. And they don't want to say anything. They don't want to embarrass you or themselves at the same time. And so they go into silent mode. And others, on the other hand, they love your failure. They relish in the fact that you messed this one up. This one's going to cost you. That one's going to hurt. And sometimes they'll say things like, that's going to leave a mark. Because they know just how bad that decision was. What the results are going to be. And when you see those kinds of things and you realize that failure for the moment doesn't have to be the end of my career, my idea generating, my speech writing, my leading. It's not over. I've just tested an idea that, well, it sucked. Don't do that again. Do something different. Do something else. Now, here's where that really fine line comes in, because that really fine line looks like somebody who says to you, that was a terrible idea. Look at all the bad things that are going to happen from it. That's the fatal failure. But the other feedback is when they come and go, what if you tried this one change? I mean, I think your idea as a whole had merit, but this one thing was wrong. I'll give you an example. I've talked about this story before, but we converted our mobile stage trailer into a mobile podcast booth. And one of the things we did was to remove the stage from the outside because a lot of kids were having fun jumping off the stage, and I don't want the insurance claim. So we took the stage off and we replaced this place where the stage used to fold up into the door with an enormous window. That enormous window is 10 foot by 6 foot, made with 1-inch plexiglass. Pretty close to soundproof. So once you're inside the trailer, a lot of the outside noise doesn't bleed into what you're recording inside, but everybody can still see you and see what's going on. So it's kind of cool that way. Well, when I put that window in there, the guy who was helping put it together, neither one of us are structural engineers, we just had an idea. We put it in there and put it across a piece of trim with like 500 rivets in it. And he said, those rivets are incredible. They've got a whole lot of strength. And he was away from the campus while I was finishing up some final touches on it. And I said, I really think it needs like lag bolts on either side, like big honking, like you would anchor concrete with. And he's like, no, it's just a window. It doesn't need all that. Well, he left the campus and I opened the backside doors on the trailer and was doing some clean out. And I walked around to the side where the windows were, and the wind came through the trailer and blew the windows 10 foot by 6 foot of 1-inch Lexan onto the top of my head. Scratches all down my back, nice bruises in my head, cracked it into 3 pieces. And I'm standing there holding it, looking at it going, what failed? It was the rivets. Every one of them snapped off. They couldn't hold the weight as soon as the wind hit it from the inside. And I thought, I'm glad it was sitting still and not moving at 65 miles an hour down the highway. I'm glad it was just a breeze from inside the trailer where the other doors were open and not the wind sucking it down the side, because I cannot imagine how fast those would have been Frisbees. They could have cut somebody's head off in another car. So I'm glad it happened then and not while it was on the road. I'm not glad that it happened at all, though. But see, we learned from that mistake. We both had our own impressions, our own evaluations, our own, this is how we ought to do this. Turns out we had to go back and put some big giant lag bolts in there to make sure that it stayed in place and couldn't fall out of there. And so far, that has worked very well, and it's been up and down the highway many times. But see, we didn't have anybody from the outside to look at it and go, that's cool. However, let's talk about drag coefficients and lift and wind and movement and weight and balance and fulcrum. And because we're not engineers, we didn't have that kind of input until after the project failed. Then we learned our lesson. Here's my lesson to you as a leader. As a leader, as a communicator, there are going to be people in your life who they want to critique you because they want to bring you down. They're crabs in a barrel. They only want to see you not succeed. Then there are going to be people in your life who want to critique you because, well, they're not trying to. They're trying to compliment you, but yeah, is the best they got. Is it. That's That's not nothing. And in fact, he goes on in the next paragraph. He says, how do you know you're good at what you do? Probably from your boss or maybe your coworkers, but I don't have a boss. No performer does. It's easier to find out how popular you are. It's easy to find out how popular you are, but that's not the same as being good. And some people have their own preferences. What's good for one person isn't good for another. Above all else, people are bad at giving feedback. Do you hear that? People are bad at giving feedback. We often focus on the superficial. Did you see that shirt? Or we have our own opinions swayed by how others feel. Now and then someone complains if I swear a few times or if it's appropriate or in the spirit of things. Feedback is subjective, meaning one person's, yeah, you were awesome, equals another person's, it was mediocre. I once had a boss who, when shown a design for something, would say, well, it's not horrible. For him, that was high praise. Had I shown him plans for the 2009 iPhone in 1995, he probably would have said, well, it doesn't suck. He judged everything against an ideal so grand, nothing could ever come close. Since I worked with him for years, I learned to calibrate what he said, teasing out the real meaning from his caustic comments. I'm sure you do this with a certain people you know as well, but as a speaker, it's hard to calibrate. Feedback from the audience is a one-shot deal. Either you can make sense of it or you can't. Really, the point I want you to get to is to understand that you need to intentionally invite people into your life who have qualified opinions. It's nice to get accolades from someone who's impressed by you. It's nice to have them say, wow, that was incredible. You ought to be making 10 times more than you're making. I don't know if that's supposed to be an insult or if that's supposed to be a compliment. But when you add those things up at the end of the day, they don't really mean a whole lot more than making you feel good. But if you want to get better, you need to be very intentional about who you bring into your life. Certainly listen to those people who are closest to you that know the real you deep on the inside, because they're going to give you the closest evaluation of what you are doing right and what you are doing wrong. But if you want somebody to criticize or to critique for the purpose of improvement, what you're doing, your ideas, your presentation style, your leadership style, your success or failure in these tasks and projects that you've taken on. If you really want some good evaluation of that, step outside the circle of the people that you're comfortable with and find the people who are qualified to give you criticism. Now, you still have to balance that with people who care enough about you to tell you the truth, because there are plenty of people who are credentialed in giving criticism. They have a master's degree in whining and complaining. There are plenty of people who have the certifications to say, I know this topic better than you do. That's fine. That doesn't necessarily mean they have the emotional, spiritual, or leadership maturity to tell you the truth. They may just enjoy tearing you down. So you've got to balance that invite to critique with both someone who cares enough about you to tell you the honest truth and somebody who's qualified to make you better. They've got to care enough to tell you the truth and be qualified to make you better. The people who love you, whatever their criticism style, whatever their feedback style, whatever their encouragement style is, take that with a grain of salt and understand their persona. Know who they are and what you should expect from them. And if they're not a woo-hoo, hands in the air kind of a person, fine. That may not reflect on your behavior as much as it reflects on their personality. And that's acceptable. That's expectable. And you may just have those people in your life that everything is whoa with hands in the air, and it really doesn't mean what you want it to mean. That's just their way. Again, it's more about their persona, their character, than the quality of your work. Don't get the two confused. Success isn't permanent. Every time somebody comes to you and says, wow, you're awesome, don't expect to ride that wave the rest of your life. Failure isn't fatal. You're not going to die over this most of the time. I mean, the Wright brothers could have made some tragic mistakes, but they didn't. They learned how to fly instead, taking huge risks and succeeding. Failure isn't fatal. It's not final. But criticism, it's not that critical. if it helps you, if the feedback makes you a better person, if the feedback allows you to perform better, have a greater impact, have a greater influence, then you win. But you've got to determine who those people are who are going to tell you the truth, because you need to hear it, and they're qualified to give you the feedback you're looking for. And in all honesty, if there's communication, if there are ideas, if there are leadership styles, if there are methodologies, if it's your spiritual maturity or your emotional maturity, you may need a different type of mentor in each of those categories. There are a few who can cover all of them, but not everybody. Know the difference. Know the people who care enough to tell you the truth, and also have the wisdom, the experience, the knowledge to make you better. Take that criticism to heart. I'm J. Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Loren is a master teacher on storytelling, and I learned so much. I'm really going to have to sit down and go back through everything, and I think I might have to have some more coffees with Loren, but it was totally worth my time, and I really highly recommend it if you're looking to grow your ministry, grow your business, grow your career. Loren will serve you well.